All right, we're going to dip back into this. The prosecution still presenting its opening.
From people who met other people associated with this phone who had used the phone to message people. And so while the phone was there, that's true. It doesn't show that Mr. Ibarra was there. And you'll hear that Mr. Ibarra's fingerprint was on Laken Riley's phone. But you'll also hear that he was wearing gloves, supposedly. And that this hole that was supposedly in the gloves that they found would not have left that mark. You'll hear that someone in that video, in the so-called dumpster video, was wearing an Adidas hat. That's true. When they find that hat, and specifically the hat that was tested in this case, it was worn by Diego Ibarra, not Jose Ibarra, Diego Ibarra. And you'll also hear, and the state will ask you to consider different types of forensic evidence and to suspend your understanding of how that evidence is evaluated. Because while they will say that Mr. Ibarra's DNA was present at the scene, what they'll tell you is that without this software that we can't test, this proprietary software used by the GBI, without that, their expert wouldn't have been able to say whose DNA it was. She wouldn't have been qualified to testify about whose DNA that is. So they have to use a machine. And they're going to ask you to trust that machine where the human being isn't good enough. But with this fingerprint, they're going to ask you to trust a person because a machine isn't good enough. When they run those fingerprints through the database of fingerprints where they know Mr. Ibarra's fingerprint is, it doesn't come up. And so while a machine
All
is
right,
good
that is
enough
actually
in
the
one
defense attorney, Dustin Kirby. So we said at the beginning of this trial, it is going to move very quickly, and it is. We didn't have jury selection because the judge will be the one that makes the decision. We wanted to bring in Bill Melugin. He is live from Palm Beach this morning, West Palm Beach. Bill Melugin, you covered this story from the beginning. You probably knew a lot of this, but there are some harrowing details that are really coming to us. You know, Shannon and I and Carrie are talking about knowing that his fingerprint, Ibarra's fingerprint, was on her phone. You just kind of imagine that, and we've been saying that the system failed this young woman, and I'd love to get your perspective as someone who has covered this from the beginning.
Dana, it was really hard to listen to that opening statement from the prosecutor. The condition that Laken Riley's body was found in, the fact that her Garmin watch tracked the very moment her heart stopped. I can only imagine being her family. I think this just shows why we as a network made it such a priority to cover the border so much these last few years. These mass catch and release policies, they have consequences, real-world consequences that affect real people, particularly when it comes to the mass catch and release of Venezuelan men. I mean, how many live shots were we doing together in 2022, 2023, hundreds of them in Eagle Pass, in El Paso, watching these lines of hundreds upon hundreds of Venezuelan men just walking into the country, single file, every day, not running, not hiding, very nonchalant, because they knew they were going to be released into the country with a court date potentially years away. And the problem with that is you can't vet Venezuelan men. Venezuela does not cooperate with the U.S. We have no database, no records to run their names against. So what you're listening to right now with this horrible case with Laken Riley, unfortunately, it's not even an isolated incident. What happened just a few months later Jocelyn Nungary was murdered in Houston, a 12-year-old girl allegedly sexually assaulted and murdered at the hands of two Venezuelan illegal aliens who had been caught and released at the Texas border just weeks prior. Sound familiar? Unfortunately, it's been happening all over the country, whether it's Tren de Aragua setting up footholds across the country, migrant crime happening in different cities across the country. The idea that what happens at the border stays at the border ended a long time ago. You look at Rachel Morin. She was murdered in Maryland. You look at Laken Riley. That happened in Georgia. Jocelyn Nungary was in Houston. These catch and release policies affect the entire country. And say what you want about Donald Trump and the way he campaigns, but at his rallies, he wasn't bringing celebrities up on stage. Who was he bringing up? Jocelyn Nungary's mom, Rachel Morin's mom. Real people who suffered horrible, horrible, horrible consequences as a result of these catch and release policies. We'll send it back to you.
Bill Melugin, it is interesting to imagine that you actually could have been standing right there, or Griff Jenkins could have been reporting to us on live shots as we watched people just stream across. And it's certainly possible that we were down there when he crossed over and before he came to New York. Bill Melugin, thank you so much. Mary Katharine Ham is a Fox News contributor and host of the podcast Getting Hammered. Just want to show this on the board here, call for 4. This is southern border migrant encounters versus the migrants released with notice to appear. And encounters over 2 million and released 1.3 million. And we know this suspect's story, Mary Katharine, as a woman, an American woman and the mother of 2 young girls. I wonder how you listen to this and think about the overall policy choices that Biden made in the last 4 years.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty astounding, and I appreciate Bill and Griff being down at the border and doing hard work covering this, because it's hard to get perspective on these numbers unless you're there all the time and really tracking it. So I appreciate the work they do. My heart goes out to Laken Riley's family and friends. As a UGA graduate, I ran that exact trail countless times in college. And to think about the fact that she was attacked in this gruesome way and that she's no longer with us has an impact. It has an impact on mothers and fathers across this country. They see these incidents that are not isolated, as Bill points out, and they are worried because things have gotten out of control. And so much of border control and setting a tone is the fact that you can be a deterrent just by saying we're going to do this differently. That's why you're seeing the concern about a surge now, is because they knew who the new boss is, right? Everyone knows who the new boss is. The coyotes, folks coming across, people who are inside the country who might want to commit crimes. They know that that road might not be as smooth for them in the future. So Trump himself can be a deterrent, Tom Homan can be a deterrent, and the show of force at the border can be a deterrent, which needs to be reclaimed because Biden gave deterrence away.
Yeah, and Mary Katharine, as we were listening there to the defense's opening arguments, we heard this reference to his brothers, who are also in the country, and Diego has got his own legal issues, but they talk about, oh, he also wore the same hat that you're seeing here. He then started questioning the DNA evidence, and those are kinds of things that, you know, a jury's not going to have as much fluency in that a judge is. He's heard this stuff before. He's had DNA in trials before. This case is going straight to that judge. It's an uphill battle for the defense, but it's clear that their strategy is going to be, well, it might have been one of the other guys, potentially. You have to entertain that.
Well, and in this trial, certainly he can consider that. I would suggest that the public is going to hear, well, all of these guys were here when they shouldn't have been. All of these guys were given extra chances when they shouldn't have been. And they will evaluate that differently in a political public sense than the judge does in this trial. Certainly, it sounds like there's significant evidence that they're going to be presenting to him. But I think that when it comes to how people evaluate policy, deportations of criminal illegal aliens is not going to be unpopular. I have news for the left. This is going to be something that many people are fine with, and they are going to be happy if violent criminals are sent back home and gotten out of the country. And Trump has made a promise to do that. Tom Homan has done it in the past, by the way, under Obama. He might even hit Obama numbers of 2.5 to 3 million deportations, which is what Obama did under his years. And that people will feel better about the fact that there is some sort of sense of control if even that happens.
Mary Katharine Ham, thank you for joining us this morning, and we will continue to follow it as the trial continues. The defense just wrapped up.